20 years ago, a seed was planted and cared for. We painstakingly nurtured it and weathered it against adversity until one day it blossomed and the fruits of our labor began to show. Today, millions have learned, shared, and been inspired by what our community has produced. We proudly serve 21 million users from 204 countries in 2019. Through our 85,000 technical articles, code samples, and videos, our 450,000 forum questions, and our highly anticipated conferences and events featuring keynote panels, live streams, and industry experts and influencers, we recognize and reward members for their dedication to the community. Through content contributions and mentorships, we ranked number 2,620 in the world with a reach of millions across our social media channels. Thanks to you, our global community of software and data developers grows stronger each day. For more information, visit us at csharpcorner.com.
Hello, Simon. Can you hear me? Good morning. I can't hear anything today. Oh, that's interesting. Is that me? All right.
We can hear you.
Good. Okay, now I can hear you. All right. Let's disconnect this. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. You're good to go.
But I need to see myself too. Otherwise, how would I go ahead and talk to people? We have some guests today. Can you hear me now? I can't hear myself. So I can see audio, headphones.
So can you hear me?
Hello, hello. Testing. All right. Can you say something, Simon?
Check. Live.
So I can hear you now. That's good.
Perfect. So you're good to go.
All right. Sorry about the disruption. And let's start this. Good morning and welcome to the show. This is another growth mindset show. Good morning, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. I see some familiar faces already. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Ganesh, Rohit, Sarvanam, welcome to the show. As some of you who are joining us back, welcome back to the show. Who are joining us first time, welcome to the show. This is Growth Mindset brought to you by C Sharp Corner. I'm your host, Mahesh Chand. I'm a founder of C Sharp Corner. This show is every Friday, 12 o'clock noon Eastern time. And we talk about little different topics. And topics is, even though it's a show is growth mindset, but we try to bring some of the latest and greatest topics. Especially if something in the industry, they're hot. And we try to bring some guests on the show, experts on the show, and talk about the topics. This show is for you. If you have any questions regarding the topic or even outside of the topic or about the community, about C Sharp Corner, anything you have, feel free to post your questions. Any kind of questions, and we will take questions in the second half. Usually this show is 30 minutes, but today it's probably going to be longer depending on how many questions we can get. Today we have two exciting, great guests with the expert in these two technologies. We are going to talk about Web3 and Metaverse. So let's share my screen. I'm going to share my screen now. There you go. So today we are going to talk about Web 3.0 and Metaverse. But before I bring my guest in there, I want to go back to understand what Web 3.0 is. That I will cover later. But before Web 3.0, shouldn't there be a Web 1.0 and 2.0? So let's talk about that. So if you are not familiar with the history of the internet, you probably look at the screen. In 1989, Sir Tim Berners-Lee, who founded the internet, pretty much he started this new internet-based system called hypertext system at that time. And in 1990, he wrote this web browser that runs HTML. And then in 1991, HTML was finalized, and later in 90, I think in one of those years, 1994, he founded W3C. That's an open community for this whole web. And then if you look at one more thing here, in 1995, Brandon Each, he's actually the founder of JavaScript. He created JavaScript, and he just created in 10 days. It's fascinating history if you want to go search and read about this internet and JavaScript. So Web 1.0 was the first version of web. They're calling, I just read how they kind of break this down from 1989 to 2005. And what that was actually is mostly static web pages, right? Static web pages, hard-coded. The content was in the web page itself. They were hosted on some kind of servers. There was some content coming from databases, but it wasn't a lot. So when I launched C# Corner in 99, that was still kind of Web 1.0. And there were some front-end technologies there at that time, HTML, PHP, ASP, JSP. I'm sure you're familiar with those. And then Web 2.0 came, and this is right now what we are going through. Anything you see on the web is 2.0. So some of the big achievements in 2.0 were, if you look at this page here, is like in 2006, jQuery was launched. And if you look at the total number of websites using jQuery now, or this is number in 2019, 80% of the top websites somehow or some way use jQuery. But in past couple of years, that trend is changing. People are moving away from jQuery just because heavy, requires a lot of downloads and so on and so forth. Look at some other timelines here. In 2007, iPhone was launched by Apple. That changed everything. That pretty much gave computer in our hands, and that's where we are today. Today's iPhone is actually even more powerful than most of the people have computers, right? 2008 HTML5 was announced. That was a big thing because then it changed the whole world, what you can write in HTML. Today you can write pretty much complete website just in HTML with the help of some JavaScript and related libraries. Then in 2010, 11, 12, 13, there's three front-end web technologies were launched: Angular, React, and even Vue.js was in 14. Though were probably Angular and React are now today is the biggest technology being used for front-end development. And in 2018, then Microsoft launched this Blazor. Blazor actually is also changing. The advantage of Blazor is that it's learning from all the previous technologies and taking all the good things, and it's awesome. It's awesome thing. If you probably saw me or attended one of my Blazor talks in this show as well. So welcome to the show again. I see Venkat, Deepak, Ganesh, bunch of other people join. Anybody who joined us in the last minute or so. We are today talking about Web 3.0 and Metaverse. So now this Web 2.0 was called, it's called social web or mobile web. But now at any time we can jump into Web 3.0. So let's bring our guest today, guest of the show today, Dr. Alex and Dr. Bharat Rawal. Hello, good morning, Dr. Rawal, Dr. Peter. How are you, Peter? You are, Alex, you are mute.
Great, I'm unmuted now. Thank you.
Yeah. Good morning, and how are you? How both are you joining? You want to tell a little bit about yourself and where you're joining us from?
Sure, Dr. Bart, go ahead.
Yeah, you go ahead. Go ahead.
So I'm Alexander. I'm joining from Cupertino, California. So I moved here to do some startups, some robotics companies, and work on some new emerging technologies in AI and ML. That was my predominant focus. And as I moved here, the metaverse kind of just transformed. And I already been doing AR and VR, so this was a natural progression to take the technology of AR, VR into the integrated with the metaverse. So the metaverse, to a certain extent, before I did that, I had a Bitcoin blockchain mining data center. So I kind of struggled with all the infrastructure setup, the cost of power, proof of work. So I was already kind of in that space, and I wanted to go more into the AR, VR space because I felt there was more medical and health related applications for AR. And as rightfully Mahesh pointed out, there is game and health is the key area that AR and VR I felt was had early adoption. But I always felt that there was something kind of missing, and there was the connection between the blockchain Bitcoin business and the AR VR business. I couldn't connect it until this metaverse came about. And as soon as it came about, we all got together, we jumped in and said, okay, we're going to figure out a metaverse company. How do we do that? And so that's why I'm here. We had several conferences, and Mahesh and Dr. Bharat, we've been discussing what are the languages, the standards, the protocols, how do you go about doing business in the metaverse while keeping in context of the ecosystem that we're working within, right? We're working within the Web 1.0 world, Web 2.0. Now we're going to the Web 3.0. What is the software and hardware? And those are the challenges, and we're discussing that. Mahesh is also way ahead in the AR space with the Microsoft HoloLens and the enterprise play. And there was a very interesting discussion that excited us, which was Mahesh and I had a debate on what comes first, hardware or software, right? And then Mahesh, came up and said, the idea comes first, right? Okay, so we have the idea of the metaverse for a long, long time, but is the hardware ready, or is the software ready? And that's why I think he got this conference together to just beat me up on that debate that he included Web3 in the mix. So I'm excited to have a debate and talk about a lot of technologies. Dr. Bharat and I are practitioners, so we have written papers, we have done algorithms in quantum computing. And so we're at the very lowest level. So we can talk at the TCP level, the UDP level, stateless, stateful. So we're kind of at the bare machine level. So it's very interesting to see that full spectrum of individuals in this call. Saying that, I pass it on to Dr. Bharat. Oh yeah, I used to work for America Online, and as you know, it's a big internet company. I used to work for Nextel Communications, the push-to-talk real-time communications. So I've been working for these two big industries. Okay, go ahead. Back to you, Dr. Bharat.
Thank you, Dr. Alex. So right now I'm in Washington DC area. So currently I'm in the Capital Technology Universities department chair, and previously I was at Penn State.
So you moved since I last spoke you a couple of weeks ago?
Yes, this is third day I landed in this area, so I'm still settling down.
Nice. I will see you soon. I think this is good. This is great, actually.
Yeah, that was the reason that like to move and get connected. So at least.
So you want a little bit more to tell our audience about a little your background, what you work on, especially cybersecurity, and how you are connected into this blockchain, metaverse, and all the things.
Perfect. Thank you. So first of all, I'm a nuclear physicist, my education background, but I work mostly in healthcare and pharma industry. So you might be like many people, when I started my job in India, people see your physics and you're working in medical field. They try to, try to make me nervous all the time. I said, and I feel, okay, I'm in the wrong field. Every time, why not I'm in physics world I'm working. But it's turned out to be very well. I became the CEO of the pharma companies and run our own business, pharma industries, and the company is now like top ranked in the world. So that's one background, and then I have a technology company. My background is physics, So I'm more into mathematics and anything if you can mathematically prove before you develop, right? So you can see that what will happen. So that's kind of my idea. So I'm more on to like developing protocols, concepts, and all. Then software and other people can take into the next level and create some application. So I have a couple of patents and especially in cryptography, quantum computing in this area. So we have been working on quantum computer for like almost like 7 to 8 years, and we uh, published the book like 2 years before, but it's now finally available last week on Amazon, and it's like Elsbury Springer textbook. This textbook for graduate and PhD student, but it can be handbook for anybody to understand what quantum computing and what is the role of blockchain. Especially, our idea was focusing the future generations of computing. So those are the work I have done, and I'm more on cybersecurity area. I think differently, and the way that one my concept is that if everybody is using, I'm actually totally against of social media. Okay, but until like 7 8 years before, I say that social media is waste of time. People don't have time. Those have no job or nothing, they spend their time on social media. But then realize when you run your companies and when you CEO and all, so you know that where the social media is driving engine. So if you're not successful, if you're not connected on social media, you cannot run your businesses. So you need to know, understand how social media work, how social many aspects. It's not only the technology part, but many other marketing and all. So that's why we started taking interest into how we come up with idea, how we convert into digital world. I said I'm total against of digital world. Actually, first means social media means digitally. I'm in favor of meeting people, greeting peoples, and you meet
In person. Yeah.
in person. That's kind of I was old school person. I before the social media network, I had like hundred thousands of people in my network. I work in pharma industry, and everybody in pharma mostly know me in India, around the globe, and it was huge network. And now all they are connected into social media. That's another thing. I got asset coming from my background.
Yeah.
This is little bit something what we do. So
Yeah, we will cover this topic in detail. Like really, we all
yeah,
three wants to debate on that topic.
perfect.
Uh,
Thank you.
but
So
let
that's
me go back to our first topic today. So thank you everybody for joining us. Please keep asking questions because your questions are we want to really answer. Again, this show is for you. So if you have any kind of questions about metaverse, Web3, social media, NFTs, cryptocurrency, blockchain, anything you have, please feel free to post your questions. But I want to start our discussion today with like what is Web3, right? And maybe Simon, if you can share the screen as well. So I was doing my research and I'm writing obviously another my paper on what is Web3 to educate people. And some of the things I have these words I came up with the research from, including Tim's what he in the beginning explained what Web3 could be, and also a bunch of other people, including one of the co-founders of Ethereum. So these are some of the words came up with that when you think of a Web3, right? Web3 is made of some of the most of these content here and more probably. So in brief, let's start. Dr. Alex, you want to start with just brief in 2 lines. What is Web3? And then we can all go through. And then I want to especially focus on these words here to explain more people about this. You're
muted, Dr. Alex.
Yeah, Web3 in simple one term. That's a great way to do this. Web3 is decentralized. So if you want to think of it, decentralized.
And I'm gonna
decentralized, consensus-based. Without explaining blockchain, it's really hard to explain Web3. But the definition of blockchain essentially is very similar to Web3. So at this time, I am caught off guard saying with one sentence, how do you explain
No
it?
problem, no problem. So we'll get back there.
But
Bharat, why you want to add something to what is
yeah, I can
Web3?
add to Dr. Alex thing. So Web3 is nothing but the meeting of space and time together. So this is like where quantum computing and all come
Yeah,
into. So that's like
interesting,
space and time. So
interesting.
that's the location we are at this point.
Yeah,
Uh,
interesting. So
that's all.
Simon, if you keep that screen there, right? We are still talking about the Web3. So, and we can add all this in together. This is the kind of definition of Web3 when I came up with. Hey, Dave, good to see you here. Welcome to the show. So Web3, I think ubiquity is the first word they use, right? And what they're saying is that you can jump into that, we can discuss one at a time, is basically web is going to be everywhere. Right now web is in the connected world, right? If you think of a website or web, you think of there is a browser, it runs through browser, right? So it can be your browser on your mobile phone or your computer or your device. To go to web, you have to go through the browser. But what they're saying is web3's concept is even outside of the browser. It can live on any device, connected or disconnected, and it can even run offline. It can even run outside of the browsers, because when you think of blockchain and decentralization, they don't run in a browser. They can run as a node itself as well. So you want to add something to that, and I'm going to go one by one of these, because Web3 idea is, that's exactly one thing a lot of people, especially the crypto people, are making a big deal out of saying what Web3 is. I disagree. I think Web3 is a bigger idea. It's a group of bunch of newer technologies. So, Dr. Alex, add something to that?
Yeah. So if you asked me one sentence, so I just got it. You know what it is? Web3 is the electrification of the internet. So taking the internet and sticking it into the power lines so that every house, every item in your house is powered by the internet is essentially the concept of Web3 in a broader sense. So when you have a toaster that's getting electricity, it's also getting the internet, and it's able to, as you toast, you can now order new upgrades, and you can order maybe even new like bread. Go ahead, Mahesh. Go ahead.
Yeah, and if you burn your toast, you can make an NFT and then put on an NFT right there from your toaster. But why? Go ahead.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
You want to add something to that? But why you brought a topic, quantum computing, which is not
Sure.
here.
Correct.
But I truly believe, I don't know how far the quantum computing is. Maybe you want to add something to that. Maybe
Sure.
that will also be a part of Web 3.0.
Correct. So ubiquity means everything, right? So this brings to the definition of quantum universe.
Yeah.
Means in quantum computing, like the every molecules, every atoms, like the tiny particles, they are communicating throughout the world. So right now we are going a little bit more advanced in quantum communication. There's two different things. One is quantum communications, other is quantum computing. So quantum computing is high performance computing right now. Like every big organizations, they come up with their simulation tools and for experimenting the people. So that's quantum computing, like parallel processing. So you can run like million times faster your computer. So that's one, that processing one. Other is communication, like as you say that the ubiquity means everything is already communicating in the universe. So Star Trek, right? So if you during those folks who have seen Star Trek, so during that time also they bought the idea like communicate through everything.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, that's great. Definitely. So quantum computing is one. So let's get through a couple of these things. I'm going to mix a couple of these words here because they kind of work together. So next word I'm taking for Web3 definition is semantic web, and then data ownership, and I will take intelligent systems. And the reason I'm saying that is because in Tim's paper, he said is that, and even we can look at that right now. Right now, if we look at Web 2.0, there's so much data out there. Every day we are creating, I don't know, quadrillions, some trillions or whatever, terabytes of whatever data, and it's just data being pushed to the web. And then a lot of companies working to make sense of that data. There's analytics, there's AI, there's machine learning working on the background to figure out, okay, if so many people are liking these images, what can we make out of that, right? This is already kind of happening in the background. So even the clouds are becoming now intelligent clouds because AI machine learning is already part of it. All we have to do is figure out what kind of data model, what kind of algorithms we need to apply on the data. But I think in Tim's paper, he tried to explain that the future, which is Web 3.0, will already have this semantic web. Means when we are creating this data, it will be more like information. It will be making sense. You want to add more to that and just discuss on this topic?
So I think the smart cloud and the smart infrastructure would be, if you want to think of it like this, it's like a treadmill for you, when you're running. It's essentially the treadmill is running underneath you and you're running on top of it, right? So the treadmill gives you that extra motivation, right? That extra push to move forward. So when you talk about the intelligent cloud or any of the intelligent systems, they give an added advantage to push forward to do something more effectively, more faster. And that, like, let's say, for instance, now you're moving your mouse around. Let's say you're moving your mouse close to the home button. What happens is with an intelligent system or a smart system, the mouse would automatically move closer because it kind of predicts that you're going close to that. So we see that in our house. We have motion detectors. We go close to something, automatically turns on. You go close to a door, it automatically opens. We're going to see that same level of, they call it RPA in different terms in the industry. But with the Web 3.0, its fundamentals are going to be based on that predictive analytics, maybe that what they call the 2-second prediction, right? The near real-time prediction. So what does that mean when it comes to building applications on a Web 3.0? Autocomplete, spell check, all those things on Web 2.0 that we've done, they're all expected. Not only that, when you write something, it's going to try to autocomplete, and then it's going to bring you an emoji, a sentiment. All those are happening now in the 2.0 world. Now in the 3.0 world, how is it different? It's different because it's not going to be inside your web browser. It's not going to be inside a rectangle interface. We are coming away from a rectangle interface. We did the mouse, we did the touch screen, we did the voice. Now we're going into the concept of the electricity, right? So if you think about the electricity, why did the houses get electricity? First, the companies got electricity, and then the houses did, right? And if you look at Mahatma Gandhi's vision, he had a textile, a handmade textile. You know, he always shows that. Individual commerce, making things in your entity, within your space, is an important part of human development. So that's where the NFT comes into place. That's where this whole concept of cryptocurrency and blockchain come into place, because now the commerce of it is also part of the Web 3.0. And I think it's a beautiful thing that we kind of transition from Web 2.0 being e-commerce that Amazon and the rest of the big companies are kind of infrastructurally providing, to now we're moving that commerce to the edge and making sure an artist, a musician can monetize on these while everybody else is monetizing, but that NFT is kind of transparent and open. It's a different type of commerce, and the value of that is, why is a musician paid a certain amount? Why is celebrities always rated much more higher than everybody else? Because is it because they get paid ahead of time for the millions of users that are going to watch their show or movie or performance? So these are the type of conversations we have to take, because any artist, any musician, anyone in this space, right? Even a programmer, like you put your content in GitHub, you put your content in and post your content. There's always a cost involved, right? You spend time, energy. So this is where I think this whole Web 3.0 is going. back to
No,
you.
that's great. No, that's great. So that's definitely, and I like your definition, electrifying the whole web. That's great. That's simple. That simplifies it. That's probably the newest
Electric,
definition.
web going electricity. We
Yep.
just made the internet electricity. That is the metaverse. At least in our definition, we can kind of think of it to a certain extent because edge computing, autonomous driving, 5G. 5G is one of those big drivers that pushes that internet out to a lot of ubiquitous systems in real time. So you could hire a virtual driver sitting somewhere else, driving your vehicle, right? While you also have the autonomous system doing all the edge communication and management. Think about
So
it.
I'm gonna bring that topic too. I'm gonna bring that
Oh,
to
go ahead.
and to the especially the somebody driving my car, because then I can sit in my chair and drink Coke all day and be like a 500 pound. I'm coming back there. So I'm gonna come to Bharat, to you. Let's talk about data. Again, everybody, welcome to the show. I see more people join. Welcome to the show. Please let your comments coming. We're gonna start taking your comments very soon. Uh, but yeah, feel free to chime in if you like this idea of Web 3.0, you dislike it, and you agree, disagree. We want to know that. What do you think, right? Not everybody's going to agree what we're talking about here. So now let's talk about this data. So I know, Bharat Bhai, you are working with cybersecurity and data and all that. And one of the biggest challenge for Web 2.0 has been is the centralized authority of data. So hospitals like healthcare system, they own our data. Banks, they own our data. Financial system, they own our data. And then some are selling it, like right now, LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook, they learn about it and they then package it and sell it. And one of the innovation part of this Web 3.0 is supposed to be as a part of decentralization as well, in is that giving the ownership of data to the owners, like real users. So if I'm a person, I can own my data, I can own my healthcare records, I can own my financial records. When somebody needs it, they have to come and ask me rather than managed by a financial institute. That's one part. And second part is the when data is centralized. For example, Target stores our, there's some bank stores and they'll be getting hacked every day. And we know that, we did research on that together. There are more than 1 million attacks every day. And now it's probably 5 million. That was 3-4 years ago.
Right, right.
So right now, you want to add something to that and how Web3 will probably try to solve that problem.
So yeah, you're right. So this is like one with Web3. So massive data, and data is new gold. All the company, the most expensive thing in your organization is data. Like your building, construction, machine, software, hardware has not that much value of what data they hold on. So data is very important, and I've been the advocate of always, like, data need to be possessed under the owners. Right now, you rightly said that all the big corporations control our data, and they do whatever they want to do. They sell third parties and make millions of dollars out of that, right? So that's one thing. Data privacy. So I've been there is a some I actually we build a system also to during that time. We call proxy re-encryption mechanism. Means, let's say my data, my information, my file. If I want to share with somebody, if I send him and I will authorize him, then only he will able to, and rest of world will not able to access without my permission. So that is kind of proxy, one of the product we build, and we have the pattern on that product of that. So this has some value coming up in Web3, especially in metaverse applications. So, and also, like, same time is challenge. The challenge is when we moving to Web3 and coming up the quantum computing, the high performance computing, and whatever cryptography we are using to encrypt and store and secure those data, they will be out of door, because quantum computer can break any cryptography, like in a nanosecond period of time. So some of we take like 100 million year, like when we calculate it. some RSA and other algorithm. But they will be, once it's like a quantum, full-fledged quantum computer is there, they are gone out of the door. So right now is the concern is that we need to work like everybody's started already working the quantum resistant cryptography and all. So one of the work we have done, and it's already some textbook is coming up on quantum cryptography and all. So Dr. Alex and myself and one other colleague, we three been working and we developed that. So idea of like, once you have like million time faster computer, like right now is quantum computer is million time, but once the quantum computer develop, they may be 100 or billion time faster. So it's offer the opportunity, same time the challenges. How are you going to secure your information, ownership of data? What way, what mechanism you are going to use, especially in metaverse, right? So metaverse privacy. Metaverse is means, let's say you're sitting in your home, somebody's avatar, like you can come and
So I'm
roam
coming
around.
to Metaverse a little later. I have
Sure,
two
sure.
more things to cover, and then we're gonna end this with
Sure,
So yeah.
perfect. I'll stop
So
here. Thank you.
with that said, right? I wanna add this new, bring this new topic is the 3D graphics, right? So right now, in Dr. Alex, you said that before already. That right now we are in 2D world, this rectangle window, right? We are on the screen. We are watching everybody. It's a 2D world, right? We don't know the 3D. So, but 3D has been, companies have been working for a while now, and Microsoft was the first one to start these holograms, right? Where you can see, you can visualize, you can touch, you can work with the 3D objects, holograms. So what is your take on that? Obviously, one of the Web3's definition is that it's going to have 3D graphics, right? And now that brings another topic combined with his metaverse. So metaverse is a combination of somewhat 3D and digital world, right? So let's start this topic to that, how this is being built, developed, and what role this will play in Web 3.0. And then we all can chime in.
Yeah. And Mahesh, as you rightfully mentioned in our previous conference, the hardware is not ready to process 3D the way we expect it to be functioning. For instance, we have JPEG and PNG and all these different formats, and also 3D formats. But the truth is, our capturing device, the camera that takes a picture, does not have enough computation power to create an SVG, a scalar vector representation of you, which is all the shades and gradients of your face, captures it and creates a model, a physics model that can be used, so you can make it so small and you can blow it all the way up and it can still keep all the details, right? We have not gone into the level of SVG. That's another bigger challenge is our cameras, the JPEG and PNG, these are all pixel based, not calculated vector based, right? They're not doing all the polygraph mapping and everything. Those cameras are not ready yet. That's one layer. The other layer is we don't have X-ray cameras to look through our bones. And we don't have cameras, MRIs, and all the other technology to start looking into our internal organs, right? So eventually, the cell phones, you can just point it at your hand and you can see it like an X-ray. And over time, CT scans. So your phone is going to be more and more advanced. But would it be the phone? Would it be a phone or would it be another device? But the bottom line is you can see the amount of additions we're doing to these mobile devices. And that falls in line with 3D is stereoscopic cameras, looking at thermal imaging. That's also part of cameras. So we are going to see this semantic web in a more organic way, biological, physical way, only when we get to that point where we can really say that we have this figured out. Because I can look at my heart. I can just point the camera to my heart. I can look at it beating in real time. And those are the early stages. Once we come out of the mobile world and go into this 3D world and take the computing away from mobile phones, we're going to get to that stage. And again, Mahesh, still people use desktops. Still people use laptops. still people you like 1D. If you think about it, the movies we watch in Netflix, right? We sit back, we don't touch anything, we don't navigate around. The director, the cinematographer moves around and gives you a perspective. So they're doing the 3D for us in a manual way. So when we look at 3D on Web 3.0, you can interact with that 3D. You can look at it from different angles. In fact, with AI and ML, you can interact with the actor and the actor would get back, or you would be able to put yourself as through GAN, like generative adversarial networks, you would be able to become an actor in that movie, right? So you're seeing all this kind of, AI and ML mixed into 3D, augmenting it with all these layers. But that's my take. Go ahead.
No, that's good. That's good. Bharat?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Dr. Alex. So bringing yourself into the story, right? So that's kind of when you watch movies or when you watch any web applications, right? So you right now is current web applications, like when we started, you said rightly, like web 1 a static, web 2 you have like emotions, dynamics and all. Web 3 is more like kind of bringing reality virtually, and going to closer to metaverse, right? So
So
those are
that's good. That's good. So that's really, go ahead. You want to start? I want to start with the metaverse before we do. What is metaverse? If somebody's watching and they have not heard of metaverse and they want to know first time, what is metaverse? So let's start with that. You can continue and
Sure. So shall I give, or Dr. Alex, you want to start with?
Dr. Bharat, as a physicist, you're close to the real world. I'd rather you say.
Okay. But yeah. So metaverse, right now, like we are familiar with web, right? You started web 3, web 1, web 2, web 3. So metaverse is like when I say the web application where time and space meet together. So it has many components, like its kind of presence, how you look like, how you feel, avatars, and idea you jump from one universe to other universe, like teleportations, interoperability of so many different stacks, uh, and the network communications. All so these things are actually getting now at this point are coming up, like within last 2-3 years, like came, and recently it came like very like once Facebook came into, and now it's become like everybody's talk of the town now.
so that's great. So Dr. Alex, why do we really need, you're mute by the way, why do we really need metaverse like today? What is the need?
So I think the need for the metaverse is because of the information overload. There are too many Netflix shows, too much content, and we spend 5 hours approximately on the phone, like looking at emails and other things, right? So there is so much hands. We're either holding something in our hand or we're looking at a computer screen, and the mobility, the movement of us going outside or doing or watering your garden while working, how does that work? Because now I can't water my plants outside without, I want to do that in parallel, right? How can I consume content in small bits at the same time, do something else that's in the real world? There are two things that I believe that really worked out, which is, one is the Alexa. Was a great experiment where you put these Alexa devices everywhere and say, Alexa, read me my news, and then you're doing some cooking. Alexa, tell me this, and you're using that very effectively, turning on, off lights, a lot of different things. That is the voice, NLP, natural language processing and speech. And then the other thing that really kind of was amazing is the watch, right? It's just such a small device. And at a glance, I can see, oh yeah, my son reached school, or something else happened, or I got this text message, I'm getting a delivery. Very quick micro expressions. The watch was another one, I think, that kind of took away from the screen. But the watch is not ready for me to watch Netflix or watch a show or listen to this lecture while I'm cooking or doing something else. So this hands-free, right? We always, it's fancy words, but it's kind of a little older words, hands-free. We wanted everything to be hands-free, right? So I think that making it hands-free is very critical. And that's why when you put a VR goggle on your head and you're looking around, yes, it's great, it's immersive, it takes you to an entirely different world, right? Which you need in some context for some trainings or some real focused training. You may need that AR, VR, virtual reality. It takes you right under the water, you're right there feeling everything, all the pressure, and your memory and your brain is all kind of stimulated in that context. But before we, if we get to the VR, how about taking what I have in my real world right here, and then kind of imagining how do I make, something that's here. This doesn't exist, but this is a 3D, three-dimensional model. So how do I do that? So I can take the content. I can take this from the internet, right? I can take it from the internet, which is now in this case the metaverse. I will take this from the metaverse and I'll interact with it. In reality, I'm not interacting with this 3D object. I'm interacting with this pen. But this pen now has been mapped to this object from the internet. And I'm watching it through some augmented reality display, like a goggle or a holograph, like Mahesh would say. And I'm interacting with it. And to a certain extent, I can do certain things with it. But I may not, I move the pen and this moves, but I may not feel the texture. This is where Facebook is coming up with a glove. And some neuroscientists are coming up with implants and, or some type of way to get that going. So when we talk about the metaverse as a bigger scheme of things, this is a very small component. This is a component where in Web 2.0 world, it's putting a video or an image, right? There is video and pictures, right? Video and pictures. In Web 3.0, what I just showed you is video and pictures. But the metaverse has a lot more than just that. But those two are very critical because when you go to any website, what do you see? You see images. You see 3D representations. That's why when we talk about this type of visuals, it's important because people learn, and it's kind of even proven that visually looking at things stimulates the human brain. So go ahead now, Mahesh.
So I just want to add one more thing, like Mahesh bhai. So here is, when we talk about metaverse, means this is like multi-universe when we are bringing together, right? When we talk about meta. So right now we are talking quantum computing means QD dimensional, but there in reality there may be multi-million dimensions. Like, so you may have like one entity, there are millions of entity exist there, and so that, like when you other concept of physics and the theory of physics, that right when we come those metaverse like multi-universe. So when I move, like for example, you might have your avatar and many avatars. So people coming according to physics, matter and antimatter. So according to metaverse, like if you have multiple universe, so people coming from same person coming from different universe, if they meet together, they both will be annihilate. They will be disappears. So if you see somebody exactly look like you and don't try to shake your hand, you both will be disappear from the universe. This is just only like one piece in the physics theory.
So you think
that's a very good point, right? If you think about it, we're talking about digital twin, which I think Mahesh, on your blogs, right? The digital twin is probably avatar, right? You kind of called it that. But the digital twin is a very tricky thing, right? Because when you have a version of me, now I'm talking to you now. Am I real? Is it pre-recorded? Could be. There's nothing for you to say I'm real. I'm the digital version, right? You never know. And so how do we bridge the gap between me as an actual person and the digital version of me, so that if I'm in the same place at the same time, and this is where the whole metaverse is also a geoplay. That's why people are going out there and buying a lot of land and trying to see, okay, maybe Mahesh is going to colonize a new planet and call it Seashore Corner. And he's going to sell different land plots in that planet. And we could buy that using a common currency. And based on what he's doing with that planet, how he has built the ecosystem in that planet, more people will come in, and that's how you develop as a nation, as a society, as an interspecies. Is he goes out there, colonizes that planet, creates infrastructure in that planet that is useful for everybody, and everyone goes and invests in that, and eventually there would be enough of that investment that he would actually go and colonize a real planet out there and start building that infrastructure there. And go ahead.
Yeah, so I think we can. This is great. This is great discussion. I think we need like 5 hours for this. So let's take. We only have 9 minutes left. So let's take some of the questions from audience. And again,
Yes.
everybody, welcome to the show. If you joined us later, you're part of the Growth Mindset show. We have today Dr. Bharat Rawal and Dr. Alex, our guest today, and we're talking about Web 3.0 and Metaverse and related technologies. There's so much to talk about these here. It's a broad topic, and we are in early stage, right? We are in a stage where we are thinking about what the 3.0 will look like, what Metaverse will look like. We don't know where it's going to go. It's going to have some bad implications, some good implications, results. So let's see what we'll continue talking about these new topics in coming shows as well. So let's take some of the questions, and if anybody has more questions, please feel free to post your questions here. So this is a question from Samrat. Can Metaverse coins detach from Bitcoin in coming future, irrespective to Bitcoin pump and dump? So I think, and you can add more to that, but with so one of the concept in Metaverse is having digital, not only digital identities, but also digital currency, digital assets. Everything is digital, right? It's made up of digital. So to me, of course, there's going to be different coins in Metaverse. It's just not Bitcoin.
Yeah, and remember that the foreign exchange, currency exchange, right? You have different countries of different currencies, and there is a common exchange. So this is where standardization comes in. At this time, it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, right? And then everything else kind of manages it. So Bitcoin kind of is the golden standard. Because of the proof of work and the amount of electricity we're burning and the carbon, eventually Bitcoin's going to kind of transition into a different but at this time, Bitcoin is the golden standard. Right underneath Bitcoin is the Ethereum. And of course, there's a lot of other different ways of implementation. But from a currency perspective, from dollar conversion, Bitcoin is kind of your currently your measure. Go ahead. Another question. Now, while you're typing up your another question, I want to say I had a web hosting company back in 95, 96. Very early on, I wanted to sell websites to small companies, right? So I found it, and I went out there and I said, I'm going to talk to an accountant, and I'm going to tell him, hey, let's design a website. Let's register a domain name, build a website for all your customers for, at that time, I think it was like for $100 a year, right? To build just a website with their product offerings. So he had gas stations, restaurants. So I went with that accountant, me and another colleague of mine. We both went to different firms this accountant used to go. 7-Elevens, Shell gas stations, fast food restaurants, convincing them that, hey, having a website with your name on it, and then most of them give me a business card and give me the menu and say, can you put this business card and menu online, right? Wherever you're saying in the internet. And they were not very comfortable. They were like, this is some new fad, the fear of missing out. They wanted it. So we went ahead and took pictures and we put that online. And we went back to them with a laptop and kind of showed it to them like, this is how your website's going to look. They were not excited. They're like, my customers look through my local listings. They're local, right? And they're coming. This web is really, I don't see any value, but because my accountant said it, I got it. This was in 94, not long ago. It was 94, 95. But now every company, they're ordering online and then they're interacting online. At that time, we were not able to convince them to do that. Now I'm seeing in the metaverse world, I go to a restaurant and say, I'm going to put your company on the metaverse. What are they going to say, right? Yeah. Why would I need to be on the metaverse? You see what I mean? It's
But
just
thanks to iPhone, right? That iPhone changed everything, right?
exactly. But still, you go and tell somebody, it'll cost you $5,000 to get a decent, a metaverse compliant website, because you need the tokens, you need 3D graphics. It's going to cost somewhere from $5,000 to $10,000 to create a truly metaverse website. You need the tokens, you need the 3D rendering, you need the community. It's a big infrastructure, and they need to pay at least $200-300 a month to support that infrastructure.
Yeah. That's
How
the
are
key,
you going to sell that?
So
How are you going to sell
that's
that?
exactly, there is a question here, right? That's a related question, is because of Web 2, we already have problem. Web 3 is going to even create more data. The size of the data will be insane, which is impossible. What do you think of that? So we can just continue talk on that. Bharat, why you want to take on
Yeah,
that?
sure. Yeah, so this is like the question I can say relate to privacy and security, right? So in metaverse, it will bring like more opportunity for hackers and all, so they can imitate yourself, your meta means your avatar, and they can go and roam around your house and everywhere, or if somebody is coming, you might be in your house and somebody is entering into your house, hacker can. And how do you protect them? So do you need so currently I am working with concept, so we have police force. If somebody is trying to illegally enter into somebody's house, so we like the metaverse police force will come and capture them. They will destroy their applications, or they will remove from there, or whatever they
They
will.
put it in jail. They'll probably be
They
jail,
put it
right?
in jail. Putting in jail means blocking and
Yeah.
completing,
They can't do anything. They're stuck.
taking away from them. So that's
Yeah.
And
that.
there's a lot of opportunity in this space, as you can see. I hate to say it, but the early adopters are two big industries. And one is gaming, and the other one. They're the ones who are always pioneering, because they get paid customers very quickly. And like HD videos, they had them back in '98, right?
Yeah.
They had the encryption, everything, and because customers were paying a good amount of subscription fee. So
Yeah.
now the metaverse, as we get into that stage, we're going to see you're giving a token, and that token manifests into some type of a conversion to the dollar or the currency, the local currency. And that, I think, is where and then this is a very controversial topic, but I think the stock market, floating your company on the market, trying to get funding and things like that, all those are going to change. The way the NFTs are going to come out, it's going to bring that close to the actual customer. It's bridging that gap, right? We're trying to bridge that gap, so that you don't have to have that many middle layer to get your royalty or whatever you plan for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want to add one more thing, because this metaverse right now, current network like 5G and 6G beyond, right now there are a team of people in IEEE. They're working on the creating network side by side, like sensor sending. If you feel hurt, like if you're two boxers are finding punching others, so while you're watching, you'll feel that force, you'll feel that pressure, you'll feel that emotions. And especially Dr. Alex says the industry where you want to enjoy the pleasures and all. So this metaverse is bringing those those
And if you
dimensions.
think about it, we have a very inefficient system. Unfortunately, we have not found a quick cure for some diseases. Yes, we've gotten a vaccine for the pandemic, but we should have known this when we looked at SARS. We should have been way ahead, right? There is politics. There is so many other. Even if you go to the post office now and try to mail something, look at the level of complexity and inefficiencies in the system. I think that more and more the customers will just walk up to the counter, do their own mailing, and they will just go. It's just you can see the attrition. This is a time for great attrition. One generation is just kind of saying, okay, it's good, I'm done. And there's a lot of change. You will need new workforce, and the workforce cannot be doing repetitive tasks. The workforce needs to be mobile. They want to do multiple things at the same time. They're watering their lawn and working, right? You want to get that level of remote autonomous services robotics, drones, especially security, cybersecurity is huge. It's a challenging time, but at the same time, we have to start getting into automation. A traffic light and a stop sign, those are technological advancements that stop human conflict, right? With just a traffic light, look at how much efficiency we just brought in. Now imagine the smart stop signs, the smart traffic lights, the systems, but the smartness is not controlled by one company. The smartness is controlled by a group of people, right? Our ultimate goal is democracy, voting, all these systems, we want it to come in play. And that's the bigger game, right? And that's why we put so much money into blockchain, and every individual citizen is investing, because we want to have that decentralized fair game.
All right, great. So we'll do one more question, but let me answer this one question from Dilip. Dilip, we are not answering .NET Core questions in this show. We're not programmers. So this is a different show. Maybe you want to post this on the forums or something.
Yeah.
But with that said, I think we covered a big number of topics today. And again, these topics they can go forever. But with Samrat, I just want to answer your question quickly. How's the one of the advantage of decentralization is that data is stored on local devices, not stored on centralized server. So there may be a time where you don't need to sync all the data. You only need to sync your own data on your own device. So if everybody owns their own data storing on their devices, that data transfer from one to other will be really small. It's not going to be same because no centralized server is storing all the data. So this will be one of the way we will try to solve this data transfer and data storage.
Also, Mahesh, the data would be, because it's just like peer-to-peer, right? You and I are neighbors. I have a file and you have a file. If you think about it, I have the same PDF file that you have, right? Yeah. So in a decentralized system, if it's in a blockchain, a lot of the content we have on the internet is kind of sharing one another content. So if you just have the links to the multiple links to where the content is, right? Then you don't really have to duplicate that content.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yep.
Semantic, the whole concept of, connected graph networks and semantic web, those are two components. Also, Mahesh, in your blocks, maybe a graph network, something related to graphs.
Yeah. So it's a topic is, people going to figure out different ways. But to last question and last topic we're going to, before this we'll close is, so, world started. When world started, it was decentralized, right? Everybody was dealing direct. They were living direct. There was no technology, right? So we were all happy. We were trading together. Okay, you want to buy, vegetables from me? Okay, I'll fix your pump. Okay, so that's how we started, right? Even in villages, when I grew up, that's what we were doing. Okay, you help me in the farm, I'll help you with something else. So then we built, these companies came and they're like, oh, let's build the company, let's build the bank so we can store your money so nobody's going to steal it and all that. So we start giving this to banks and they start charging us and they're making more from us. But looks like now we are saying, no, this was a bad idea. Let's go back to the old ways. Is that what we are saying here? This is last closing topic.
Yeah, but Mahesh, like Einstein said, right? You cannot solve the problems from the previous, it's a progression, right? Now that our kids and everyone, they've all grown up in the digital world. They cannot go back and say, I want to use typewriters, right? They already know computers. And if they cannot use computers, they will invent another tool that's better than the computer, but they will not invent the typewriter. So the centralized companies, mainframe, centralized systems were needed for society to learn language communication, for the world to come together, see each other. And that's what the web did for us, right? It brought everything together. Now that we're together, we're thinking,
we don't like each other now. Let's go back. Okay.
Go ahead.
No. Now we are saying, okay, first we were saying, let's get together. We're like, nah, we don't like each other now. Let's separate out.
Exactly.
But you want to add last? I agree with that. So human nature, like when we don't have anything, like we like to have more and more. So when we get enough, I think, okay, now we need to get rid of that. So social media right now, like for me, or this it's a waste of time. Still, I feel like waste of time. Still, it's kind of main engine for business and all. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's gonna definitely.
And
Yeah.
Mahesh, to your point, there are three things, right? War, natural disaster, and some type of pandemic. Technologies and new systems will evolve during those times. AI did the same. So in this time during the pandemic, this remote kind of evolved, and I think that's where the metaverse buzz is coming about. But it's also pushed companies to see the value. Companies are saying, "Hey, I don't need to have all this $50,000 a month building. I can just have them all work from home, and we can still do the same thing." You see how systems have transformed. And that's why the housing market is so big, right? People want to make the house their office. It's work, leisure, and they just all blended in.
All right, we're gonna bring this topic again because I have a lot more questions here. Like, are we really more happier now because we're building all this thing? Were we less happier in the early days? What's the point of building all this? Why are we doing this? Right? But that's for the next show because this could be a bigger topic. So everybody, thank you for watching us. I know we have a lot of questions left. We cannot cover this. Simon is late there in India. He's hosting us from there. He's behind the scene doing all the work, and social media team. Thank you so much for all that. But we will continue. Maybe we'll bring this topic back again. Looks like this is very hot topic, and we're going to bring the guests back.
And Mahesh did a conference where he talked of more detail. So Simon, if you can share that link.
Yeah. So that's good. You want to plug it. So there is a full-fledged conference coming up just on Metaverse and Web3. And also there's another conference coming on blockchain called Bcrypt, where we are all speakers there.
Yeah.
So Simon, maybe you want to share the script, those websites, Metaverse Conference, Bcrypt. So that's where you can learn a lot more because there's more experts coming there talking about these topics.
Absolutely. And join us on LinkedIn, talk to us, interact with us. We have a lot of materials. And again, Mahesh is in the forefront of holograms and the Microsoft play. That I think is the #1 play for monetization. So we're right on track.
Great. And and if any of you want to come on the show, you have something to share, let us know. If you have any topics, feel free to share your topics and we'll cover in those coming shows. Yeah, and this is you saw Mentality Metaverse Conference. We did that last year. I was a speaker in there. That was awesome. And then this next one is Bcrypt coming up. This is all on blockchain and NFTs and all that. So it's a lot of exciting stuff coming up. Our goal with this show is to educate people. Yeah. It's really then you need to make your own decisions. We don't really say buy or sell. So that's your decision.
Yeah, and Mahesh, this is also a place for you to think about policies that you can make in your local communities about schools and university, wherever you are, making policies about the metaverse, how to and set up some new. You're in the very beginning, so you can come up with how you want it to be. So that's an advantage.
Yep. Last thing, you want to say anything, Dr. Rawal, and we'll close it.
I think last thing I want to say, thank you for having me here, and it was really great interactions, and I think it's a great platform. Thank you all of viewers staying that late in India and watching us. And anytime, any questions, if something we can address, it's our pleasure. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. I will see you next Friday, same time.
Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you.